Hey guys, Blacksmith here. I am coming to you after filming this video once, but the sound didn't take. So we'll try it again. So Fade the Public, episode 2. The last episode we did, I gave 4 predictions, 3 of them hit, including 2 underdogs. The 1 loss just missed as well. What we're talking about works, but disclaimer, in sports betting, nothing is the silver bullet. Doesn't mean these predictions, this information is going to be accurate. It just means long term, these sort of plays, these reads will make you money. So we're going to go over some big public plays that we disagree with this week, advise how we would play it, and the why behind it, so that you can apply it to other bets, other games, other situations in the market where you can find other opportunities. So, first up, huge public play. Tomorrow night, Real Madrid, public underdog at 2.75 decimal odds against Atletico. Now, asterisk, there is an intangible here, cup game, but these two teams have played each other before many times over the last year, so we've got loads of data. So that intangible, it may change motivations, may change some things, but by and large, we can make an accurate prediction. 90% of bets are on Real at 2.75 decimal odds, big odds. Why would the bookies give you nearly 2-to-1 odds for 90% of the public? That means if Real Madrid win, the bookies lose a ton of money. So what we got to look at is previous history. So how have these two teams stacked up against each other? Real did win the last game, 2-1. And also their lineup has changed. So these two teams have changed a lot recently. So that is also a bit of an asterisk we can put by it. Maybe the trends we've seen in the past won't continue. Maybe these additions to Real's team like Mbappe, maybe that is going to be the thing that tips it over, that makes them win more often. But we've got to look at the previous results. 1-1, 1-1, 1-1, 1-1, 4-2 to Atletico. This is the only time Real have won. It's likely going to be a draw, is what the bookies are counting on. And if we look at the line movement, we can see Real's being bet down because there's loads of money coming in on it. As more people bet on a team, the line is going to be pushed down, but the draw line is being pushed down as well. And at 3.30 decimal, that means the bookies think a draw is very likely. Whenever you see the draw line at 3.40 decimal or less, the bookies think the draw is extremely likely. Is a chance Real Sociedad could win? I don't think the double chance is necessarily amazing value, but it's a bit less risky. I think it's at 1.90 decimal. Would quite like the draw, but I would avoid betting Real Madrid. It looks like a trap. The next game that we're going to look at, Man United. 90% of bets on them at 2.00 decimal versus Real Sociedad. So these games are hard to predict, by the way, guys, these cup games. So this is another asterisk. It's less of an exact science when you're looking outside of league games. But previous draw, granted, there was Man United playing away, so they were at a disadvantage there, and now they've got home advantage. So I do think that this is one where, you know, I wouldn't be too surprised if Man United win, but their odds at the moment are 1.85 decimal. I don't think that's really good. For that to be profitable, United need to win, 6-7 times out of 10. And I think this game draws at quite a high clip. The draw line set at 3.30 decimal odds. So the bookies think a draw is very likely and it is being pushed down. I would wait, and if I saw Man United and Real Sociedad's odds being pushed up and the draw line being pushed down, I would hit the draw line. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. What I think is that Man United's odds are not worth the risk. That's what I'm saying. So you may cash on them. You may think it's a good play. They just played Arsenal. That was a tough game. And United are so inconsistent. They go up 1-0 and then they end up drawing. This happens a lot with them. You know, you've got to wonder what the motivations are like here. You know, how they're going to play after that hard-fought game against Arsenal. Real Sociedad at 4.75 decimal seems extremely high, and the draw also seems very good. If I look at all of the odds on the board there, United just seems like bad value, and value is how you make money sports betting long term. Next up, we're going to be looking at Mainz. So Mainz are playing, who are they playing? Freiburg. So this is a weird one. We back Mainz, +3 handicap against Inter, cashed easily, very nice cash for us. But this just doesn't make any sense in my opinion. So if you look at the previous matchups between these two teams, 0-0 draw, 1-1 draw, Freiburg 1-0, Freiburg, 1-1 and then Freiburg 2-1. Mainz have not beaten Freiburg for years. So why are the lines like this? The majority of people are betting on Mainz, maybe because they performed well against Inter. That probably is the reason why. Freiburg are a good team. They can win this outright. If we look at the splits, what we can see is the draw is looking appealing as well. So, as always, the draw is, it's the thing that's going to trip you up. Let's have a look. 3.30. So the bookies do think a draw is fairly likely. This is one of these ones where it's like dog, draw, or pass. You don't want to be on the main side at below even money with 90% of people backing it. Why are the bookies going to give you double your money to 90% of people? More importantly, why would you want to back a team at those odds, less than even money, who have never beaten this opponent, who always draw against them or lose? It's one of these situations where there is some hype on Mainz because of the game with Inter. That's actually a disadvantage. Tough game against a tough opponent. Now they've got to play a team who historically they have a bad matchup against. Same thing with Real Madrid. Historically, they struggle against Atletico. They may be the better team, but it's just a bad stylistic matchup. So if you look at the odds in these games, you could play the underdogs for the 3 games I've just spoken about, and you only need one of those to win to make profit because the odds are so high. That's how professionals bet. It's a bit like yesterday. So my video yesterday, I said, I think Newcastle's a dodgy play. I wouldn't trust them with the injuries. They still managed to win 1-0 in the end. And I said Girona as well. I bet West Ham, that didn't win, but I bet Girona, Espanyol draw. That cashed, and that cashed so much money that it made up for the West Ham loss and made me a very healthy profit. That's how professionals bet. They don't bet the side that everyone else is betting on, the big favourite. They find good value. And when you win, you don't have to win, 80% of your bets to be profitable, like people who back really juiced favourites do. That's the best way to do it. And also, Udinese almost cashed as well. We got a refund on it. So we almost had 2 big underdog cashes as well. That's where you're going to find value. And these games are similar. Now, these European League games, they're a lot harder. Cup games, sorry. They're a lot harder to predict than league games. So you want to be careful. You want to be focusing on league games for the majority of your bets. But when you see good value, I don't mind taking a punt at good value on a draw line or an underdog. You don't want to be on the favourite side, especially when 90% of people are on it. But the books struggle to predict lines accurately. So also, sometimes if you feel like you've got a very good read and you think the books have got it wrong, and you need to have a very strong argument because the books spend millions of dollars having the best analysts money can buy, the best experts, making sure they're correct. So you really have to have a good idea, not only of why you're right, but why they may have got it wrong. And we'll talk about that next with the UFC play that I've got to talk about if you're going to place the bet. So there's maybe more opportunity in cup games, but you want to be playing the value. You don't want to be betting the juiced favourite. Like if you were going to play any of these favourites, like Real, they've got very good value. So I don't necessarily hate the play, but the fact 90% of people are on it and it's a team they historically struggle against, it really is trappy and I probably would just stay away from it. But I understand why people would take that bet. Just personally for me, I know even if that cashes, I know long term those types of bets will lose money. So finally, I want to talk about a match this weekend, which is Waldo Costa versus Ryan Spann. Spann's got about 52% of bets on him at the moment as an underdog, so he's a public underdog, and Acosta has 50. Now, there is an intangible here, which is Spann is moving up to heavyweight. I like to see that with some fighters when they're actually fighting in a better weight class for themselves, but Spann, his underperformance over his career, he's a very athletic guy, got a lot of athletic gifts, but him underperforming is more down to his fight IQ, his willingness to engage. We just saw him tear through OSP. OSP is really at the end of his career. he has a lot of physical disadvantages against Spann, who's a much more athletic fighter who's in their prime still. And now he's fighting Waldo. Waldo is a true heavyweight at 262. He's going to come in near the limit. He probably cuts down to get to that limit. Now, Spann's going to have an advantage because he's going to be still a big guy in there. He's a big dude and he's going to be fast. He's probably going to try and use leg kicks because we've seen leg kicks used well against a Costa. But I think Waldo is going to do something which we've seen happen with Spann before, which is as soon as he lands a big shot and he's got a cannon of a right hand, Spann will back off and I think we'll circle him and it will be a bit of a stalemate. So I also like the over 1.5 rounds. You're probably going to get close to even money because it's a heavyweight fight. I like that as well. And you could combine them together for really big odds. I accurately predicted that Waldo Cortez Acosta would beat Rebelis Despaigne. I predicted he would win by decision as well, which cashed I think at 8-1 odds. Everyone was on Rebelis Despaigne. So in that case, it was just a read because I know Rebelis was overhyped. This case, it's going to be a lot closer. It's probably going to be a fight with not much activity, fighters circling each other, throwing punches in and out. Spann, actually, it probably is a good game plan for him to try and outpoint Waldo at a distance. But Waldo's got so much power and he will probably bring the forward pressure and that looks better to a judge. I think that Ryan Spann is a value trap. You've got plus money, majority of people are taking him, and I think he loses a close decision. But I think it's one of these fights, if they run it back again and again and again, I think Waldo will keep winning. Lots of people disagree with this read, by the way. A lot of people are backing Spann. I understand why, but the guy keeps failing to turn up when he fights a good fighter. I don't think Waldo is a future champ. I don't think he's excellent, but he's good. He is a decent fighter, well-rounded. He's the bigger guy as well. He just needs to land one shot early on Spann and he'll back Spann up and he needs to keep that pressure up and I think he'll have success. But you can see in the splits, it's basically like 52% on Spann, 48% on Waldo, but Spann's at big plus money, 2.40 versus 1.60 decimal. So in that case, I think you'll see him, this sort of trap with Spann, a fighter who serially underperforms and the bookies are banking on that. A lot of people seem to be betting the under as well, saying that Spann can finish Waldo. I just don't see that at all. I like the over, which is probably also going to be a public fade. It's one of these heavyweight fights where I think both guys are just going to look at each other for a long time, not throw too much, not try and overcommit, and it's going to be a boring snooze fest. I might even take at really big odds as a long shot fight to go the distance. So those are the public fades that we got. Good luck, guys, if you're tailing any of the picks we suggested. We post free plays in the Telegram group every week. I've also got a new NBA handicapper and started an NBA group. He's the first person I've trialed since the Footy Tipster, who I trialed almost a year ago. I've trialed loads of tipsters and none of them have been good enough. He's the first person since the Footy Tipster, 7-8 months ago, what was it? Maybe even longer than that, 9 months ago that I trialed. So we have very high standards. He hit over 10% ROI during his month trial period. He's solid. Go into my main group and then you can see the link for the NBA group. Check that out. We're cashing, we're posting free plays every day. And most importantly, guys, listen to what I'm saying, learn it for yourself, start applying it. This is how, one, you make money, but two, you also tell if cappers are legit or not. If a capper doesn't have their record posted, they don't track their stats, they're not worth listening to. Because any professional will want to share their stats with you because the stats are impressive. We post ours in the free group every week. If you search recap in the free Telegram, you'll see our stats since we started the group over a year ago. That's how you tell that someone's good. Be careful who you're following, guys. A lot of these cappers are just pretending to be professional gamblers. I've outed about 10 people over the last couple of months who share our plays. They share every play we post. This is what most cappers do. They just share plays from people who are professionals. You want to be following the right professional because if you join someone's service like that, they will fill in the gaps with their own plays that will lose you money. So be careful who you're following. Do your own research. If you don't know how to tell if someone's legit or not, search how much do professional sports bettors make? What's the average ROI for a professional sports bettor? How do professional sports bettors bet? Google those sort of things and you will figure out what is realistic, and then you can tell people, you can tell if people are legit or not just by how ridiculous their stats are. If they're saying they're going to 100x your money, run a mile, follow us, we'll explain how things work. Links in the description. Let's have another huge week where we make a ton of money, guys. Good luck if you're following us. This is a tricky week, but I think these reads make sense. We'll watch them closely and we'll see how we get on.